Media tech has quite a history behind it, a much longer history than a lot of people probably believe because, the name MediaTek was created much later after the name of the original studio that this was. This studio environment was the premier studio environment for the entire Southwest. That means that major artists have all recorded here. People like Stevie Ray Vaughan did all his records here, and Led Zeppelin came here and recorded, and Elton John, and Beyonce was here. There's just such a long list of things that have happened here. Movies were mixed here that you know about, like part of the Titanic and all this stuff. So because of that, I'm just telling you that the gear is authentic. When it was bought years ago, it was the premier type of gear that would be here, and it's still premier. We're kind of like family here because we have a not so large environment as compared to some of the other competitors out there. And when you do the math for it, you get to find out that, well, the number of rooms that we have as a ratio compared to the number of students equals a lot more experience that can actually happen for a student. Whereas in some other schools that I know about, they may have like 1,000 students and still have the same number of rooms that we have. So you do the math and you find out that most people are going to be at like workstations instead of the actual recording studios. Media Tech is a school that is really destined to try to get you somewhere fast. Being a fast track situation, you get to cut past all the other stuff that you may find in other colleges that may be irrelevant to your direction, where you're headed. I personally teach the production and songwriting course, which is known as the 301 course here at Media Tech. My story probably started when I won't bore you. So I won't start with the 4-year-old thing, even though when I was 4, I remember my parents showing me pictures. And I remember them showing me pictures of guitars and a drum or whatever, and I think I picked a guitar, but somehow I got piano out that deal. I think they thought it would give me more discipline. When I was 13, I actually professionally started, doing some things for a church. And after working with the church for a while, I started dealing with other bands in my hometown because I was a writer. I always have composed stuff. I started writing for a bunch of groups. And one of the groups that I was in was supported by a producer at the time by the name of Rockin' Sidney. He later on ended up with like a Grammy for a song called Don't Mess With My Tutu. But he was able to take our record to radio stations when radio was friendly. But we ended up with a hit record with the song that I put together. It hit over like 8 states. Got us on a mini tour. And this is a good lesson for anybody about this industry, by the way. It's all about being in the right place at the right time. Well, I happened to be on this little tour opening up for a major act. And this major act saw me, and through a system of circumstances, they had lost a keyboard player and all that good stuff, just decided on a whim to ask me to join their band. So I joined. And when I did, all of a sudden I'm worldwide. Some people don't even have a clue, really, about what is involved in this industry. They just know that they love music or they love production, or they maybe have dabbled in it or touched it. But they don't realize, for example, that production is actually project management. And so there's a whole business layer that goes along with that. Meant to mention earlier, by the way, we also teach people how to write contracts, so that they know how to get paid. And that's really the bottom line. I mean, I know a lot of people say, and I hear them at open house say, well, I just want to be here because I love music. I just want to do this because I love music. Okay, well, that's great. And, they'll also say, well, I don't care about the money. But then when they see the picture, the full picture, and I tell them, well, first of all, this is an awful lot of work. There's an awful lot of knowledge here that you'll have in your head. I mean, in fact, we should probably be wearing white coats just like any other doctors or whatever. We have just as much knowledge. We just choose to look cool. But the important thing is if you really love what you're doing, then you have to find a way to stay in the game. It has to pay you, or you won't be here. Open house is pretty interesting. We get to meet a whole lot of diverse individuals that we never would have even imagined would have been interested in something like this. And they all show up on that night, no matter what world they come from. They all end up in the same room together, and you get to learn firsthand what's out there in the marketplace, what kind of mentalities are out there, what kind of belief systems are in place. what kind of questions that people really do have. And we get a chance on open house to answer a lot of those questions. They find out that it's all about what you do, which is what this industry is all about anyway, because when it gets down to it, you know, people are going to hire you based on what you can do. How can you make them shine? I'm a member of the music industry, and I'm out there currently doing things. I bring some of my work here, and it mixes with my students, and some of them find jobs that way. It's very real. And so I think what we do really is we put about a combined 70 or 80 years worth of experience into your head. Summer Ames, I noticed, is a total package in terms of what the music industry looks for. She has a great look. Unfortunately or fortunately, however you want to look at it, that's the way they look at things these days. Can they market that, first of all? She has the ability to play guitar quite well. She plays keys pretty well, so she mechanically can play some things. She has a great voice. She can do her own background vocals. She's pretty self-sufficient. The songs that she writes reminds me a lot of, Joni Mitchell, Tori Amos kind of atmosphere. So what I'm saying is that any record label can see a lot of lucrative results coming from an artist like that, because that's the type that you would actually use their material on big contracts, like large companies, like corporate situations, and actually turn deals that way. It's not really just all about selling records. I'm always elated about all the new information that she brings me through email and comes and asks me for advice on the new situations that are coming up. And my heart just pours out to her to want to help her even more. And so that's what I do. Why Media Tech? Because if anybody can get this knowledge in your head, it'd be us. We have a talent for getting things in your head in a way that you can actually start applying it instead of just something to memorize. Why Media Tech? Because it's a fast track to knowledge.